I wanted to make a video that focused on the highest gains that you can make as a fisherman. A video that if you were to follow would set you apart from the hundreds of thousands of fishermen out there in a short amount of time. The idea to create this video actually came from you when I polled the Wendell fishing community. And you might be thinking, what community? Well, if you're not subbed, you're not seeing those community posts, so hit that sub and bell. But I asked the question, how do you rate your fishing skill? We had 313 votes, and this is what you said. 10% gave you 1 star, 18% gave 2 stars, 44% of you gave 3 stars, 22% of you gave 4 stars, and 6% of you gave 5 stars. But the majority of you, 72% of you, gave 3 stars or below. So this video is for you. Buckle your seatbelts, folks. We're gonna be moving pretty fast. Starting with number 1, here we go. Become an expert on the fish that you're trying to target. For me and many anglers out there, it's the largemouth bass. So if I wanna catch them in size and in numbers, it'd probably be a really good idea if I knew how they operate. Like behaviors and patterns. Only 10% of that body of water that you're fishing have the ideal characteristics that largemouth bass loves. I'm talking the temperature, oxygen content, pH, turbidity, structure, cover, food, and more. You're gonna wanna know their spawning cycle, how they react to bright light, what type of predator are they, what does that mean, how does that play out, when can you find them in the shallows, when do they retreat to deep water, how does the age of the fish affect this, how does the spawning stage reflect this, where are the bigs located, what are the seasonal movements of bass, what are the temporary movements of bass, how does that lateral line work, and the list can go on and on by the types of fish that you're trying to target. Don't be this guy.
Hey man, what are you fishing for?
Oh, you know, man, whatever's biting.
Later that day.
Hey, hon, what'd you catch?
I didn't catch anything. You know me, I just love being out in the water. It's so relaxing and I love those sunrises.
So you love spending thousands of dollars on your kayaks and lures and watching countless hours of YouTube videos because you like the sunsets?
Be a bass expert. Moving on to number 2, you're only as good as those you surround yourself with. It doesn't matter if you're a new angler or a seasoned vet, you can always learn something new from other anglers. Here's a few ways you can quickly increase your fishing game. Number 1, find a mentor. Number 2, join a fishing club. Here's a crazy idea. Most people hire a fishing guide when they're going someplace that is unfamiliar to them. Here's a crazy thought. Hire a guide from a lake that is local to you. You might learn something that changes your fishing game. And the beauty of the guide is that they will help you individually and be able to point out some tweaks that you need to make and offer suggestions. As you know, the smallest tweaks can make all the difference. Moving on to number 3, fall out of love. Tell me if this sounds familiar. You still fish your favorite spot with that same lure you've been using for 25 years. Because that's where you caught your first fish 25 years ago. If you were doing this, you are getting too comfortable and you will not evolve into a better fisherman. You will simply be a mediocre fisherman fishing the same spot in the same way until you die.
Jeez, Darren, that was harsh.
The point is you need to be on the move. If you haven't received a positive response in 10 minutes, you need to take it somewhere else. You need to change it up. Change up your lure color, or simply move to a different spot. Sometimes I lose track of time. I actually just did this yesterday when I went trout fishing. I actually set an alarm for myself. Sorry, set an alarm for 10 minutes.
I set your alarm for 9:48 a.m.
Moving along to number 4. Although it's convenient to fish where everyone else fishes, don't expect to go back to the same fishing hole over and over again and expect different results. Go where others aren't willing to go. It's gonna require a little extra work. You may need to do some online research, break out your Google Maps and start looking around, drive a little further to get to that remote spot, wade a little further into that river, and you may need to invest in a kayak or a belly boat in order to get out to those remote places. Fish where others aren't willing to go, and trust me, you will be rewarded on this front. All right, help me out, guys. If you're tracking with me, if you're getting value from this, help me out and hit that like button right down there. All right, moving on to number 5, annoy them. My wife told me I should be a pro at this. Compliment? Yeah. Sometimes bass are simply not hungry, but that doesn't mean you can't get them to bite. This is what I mean. What you're looking for here is the reaction bite. And bass will nip at the other fish around them simply because they get annoyed. And there's a variety of different ways that you can annoy bass. You can flip into cover, crash into cover, bang your spinnerbait, bang your square bill crankbait into rocks and logs. This is how I get the smallies and trout to smash my square bills when I river fish in Pennsylvania. And I'm really pumped because I have a trip scheduled in August, and I'll have some videos coming soon. Here's something you might have thought of. Whenever you get your square bills caught in weeds, rip those out. Most anglers will think of that cast as a loss. But wait, sometimes when you rip your lures through weeds, it causes a reaction bite. Give it a bit of time before you reel that thing in really fast and spend the next 30 seconds removing the lake from your lure. Another way is to jig those bottom dwellers. Hook up a weighted crawdad, send it to the bottom, and kind of make it look like a fleeting crawfish. This is another great way to get that reaction bite when those fish aren't hungry. And sometimes you know the fish is there. You literally can see it, but they're still not biting. Simply annoy them. Keep throwing, keep throwing, keep throwing. Sometimes you might need to throw your lure there 10, 15 times, and you'll annoy that bass so much, it will simply take the bait. The number 6 way to become a better fisherman is always be evolving. If you believe that you learn best outside of your comfort zone, then fishing the same way you always have is not gonna make you a better angler. It's simply gonna keep you stalemated in your skills. You constantly need to be evolving. Evolving your skills, evolving where you fish, how you fish, evolving the lures you use, the depth, the seasons of which you fish, evolving who you fish with. Guys, you've heard it said, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, it's just crazy. And to be honest with you, for years I did this. I fished the wacky worm style 90% of the time, but because I want to become a better angler and I want to evolve, I have a goal this year to really tamp down that percentage and try new presentations, try new lures, and try new places. If you want to be a better angler, sometimes you just gotta throw something up on the wall and see if it sticks. Moving on to number 7, don't fight that fish so hard. This is what I mean. When you get a fish on the end of the line, I get it, it's exciting, and the first thing that usually comes to our mind is, I gotta land this thing as quick as possible because we think it's gonna get off. So this tip is going to be a little counterintuitive, because those of us who have been doing this for a while know that if you try to bring that fish in too fast and you fight it too hard, that water pony might break off. But also keep in mind, not fighting it hard enough, you might lose it as well by having too much slack in the line. So here's my tip for you when you're fighting a fish. Extremes are bad, and steady pressure wins the day. On a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being complete slack line and 10 being you're fighting that fish in like you have a 100-pound test, you want your steady pressure to be around a 7. Utilize your rod as a shock absorber. Utilize your drag. Wear that fish out. It's okay to let that fish dance around the water for a minute. You're just wearing it out and it will be easier to land. Now obviously there are always nuances to this approach. If you just caught a bass near a tree, you're gonna wanna horse that thing out a little bit. But if you're in open water, there's no reason to Hulk hands that thing. And if you like these tips, you're gonna love this video, 14 reasons you're not catching bass from your kayak. Thanks for watching, guys.